The 41st president of the United States died at his home in Texas late Friday with family members and dear friends at his side. His final day, even his final moments described as gentle and peaceful. Those words from someone who was there.
When I showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning, one of the aides who assisted him physically said, "Mr. President, Secretary Baker's here." And he opened both eyes. He looked at me. He said, "Hey, Bake, where are we going today?" And I said, "Well, Heffy," I said, "we're going to heaven." He said, "Good, that's where I want to go." Little did I know, or did he know, of course, that by 10 o'clock that night he'd be in heaven.
Former Secretary of State James Baker, who said his best friend, President Bush, often joked that he wanted to live to be 100. We're joining me right now from the Bush home in Houston, the president's son, Neil Bush. First of all, our condolences on the loss of your father. So many people, including yourself, are considering this a real time of celebration, though, for your dad's life. So what are the high points that you keep replaying in your mind right now?
Well, first of all, Frederica, thank you for having me. And I want to express, I think, on behalf of the entire Bush family, our gratitude. My email and messages have been flooded with offerings of condolences. I'm sure my brother George and Jeb and Marvin and Sister Dara were similarly being inundated with well wishes. And I want to thank CNN for doing such a wonderful job in paying tribute to my great dad, and thank all of those who are kind of offering wonderful stories that reflect a life that was so well lived. So yeah, I was blessed to be with my dad along with other family members, and Secretary Baker was right there, our pastor, the wonderful caretakers who have done such a fabulous job of making sure my dad was comfortable there for his last breath. And it was pretty amazing to see, as we did witness with my mom, that when the body goes limp and there's an empty shell, you know that spirit and that soul of a great man flew straight up to heaven. And so we're grateful for the offering of condolences. And I'm not grieving. I'm the biggest crybaby in the Bush family. But I'll probably cry in this interview, but I'm not going to cry in talking about, this is a moment of celebration of a life so well lived. He was a great man. My brother Jeb said it beautifully. He's probably the greatest human he'll ever know. I agree with that. And so we're happy today here in the beautiful Houston, looking forward to 3 or 4 days of great celebration.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. And it must be so heartfelt too, to hear people describe your dad, from, General Colin Powell saying that he was the perfect American, dedicating his life to service and being so grounded throughout, and his former chief of staff and friend, James Baker, saying they were like brothers, and, what an honor in his life it was to have such an association with your dad. So what has that been like? What does it feel like to hear so many celebrate your dad, to praise him, to see in him so many special experiences?
It's so heartening to hear these wonderful comments. It doesn't surprise me. A lot of people used to ask me what it's like to have a brother and a father become president. When my dad became president, he was my idol anyway, and so it was kind of a fulfillment of an expectation. He was the perfect man to lead our country for the 4 years he had the privilege of serving. I love what Secretary Baker said earlier, that in his 4 years he accomplished more, along with his great team, in creating harmony and peace on earth and freedom around the world. And we don't need to tick off all of his accomplishments, but he was a great leader. And more importantly, he led with, in everything he did, he led with love. And he created friendships. He created friendships that benefited our nation in terms of the diplomacy that he was able to deploy. He created friendships that were lifelong friendships with those he worked with and those he played tennis with, like Secretary Baker and others. And he clearly is going to leave an indelible legacy with the children that he raised and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren that are now coming up, because all of us have been inculcated with this desire to serve and to give back and to be of service to others and to be respectful. And all the wonderful qualities that Dad had. We aspired to be like him, and that's my, every day I'm going to wake up and think, how can I, be a better man?
Wow, he left such an incredible, indelible mark on you and so many. And we all can't help but admire, your dad and your mom, Barbara's commitment to family. It was just so palpable and, just so clear what was in their heart and their dedication to family. So if there is a, I guess, singular message or a litany of lessons that your dad tried to teach you and your siblings, what do you suppose that was, or what were those lessons?
I think for me it was this notion of leading with love and doing for others. And he counted his blessings and felt privileged to have been successful in his own personal in business life and was able to give in service to others. My dad said that any definition of a successful life must include serving others. He started Points of Light, now the largest organization focused on volunteerism. And I think his legacy is going to be not only the impact he's had on our family and the culture of service he's created here, but he's put kind of blown wind into the sails of a national service movement that sees 62 million Americans now volunteering from time to time in their communities. So, yeah, personally, I think that's going to be one of his most important legacies, and I'm really proud of that.
Wow. Well, inspirational. Your dad was also very active and also very humorous, and we've been able to hear all kinds of stories from people, in the last, 24 hours, including Arnold Schwarzenegger, who spent a lot of time, with your family. And he actually shared this very humorous story, and I'd like you to listen to it and hear what you have to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's listen.
But it was one day it was snowing up there, and we had this toboggan. And he was trying to teach me how to slide that, because I was only used to sledding down with Austrian sleds, which you direct kind of with your feet. And so we went down totally out of control. And of course, we crashed into Barbara Bush, who broke her leg then after that. So that's why he sent me this picture. So we had a great time up there at Camp David. And like I said, it was a great learning experience, hanging out around him. He was kind of like a mentor and kind of like a father figure at the same time.
Oh, so it's touching in the end, but, about the whole notion of the crash and your, mom breaking her leg. So is he saying that he led to the breaking of your mom's leg, or did she break her leg in a different way? Because there are different stories out there. What do you recall?
She broke the leg running into a, I wasn't there, but she broke the leg running into a tree, and anyway, so yeah, I love hearing that Arnold Schwarzenegger accent. He's been a good friend. I don't know if it's appropriate, but there's one joke that Dad would tell, and it's a little racy. Frederica, do you think it'd be appropriate?
Yeah,
when he was
I'm ready.
In the hospital,
I'm ready.
in the
We're
ICU.
ready to hear it.
Okay, this is, and for if you have kids in the room, you might want to
All right,
have
kids.
them. Turn the sound up. Okay, so my dad was in the ICU numerous times over the past 4 years. In fact, the fact that he lived this long really defies nature, and he had a superhuman will to live. And I remember 3 or 4 years ago, Mom was in the ICU with Dad. I was there. A new nurse came into the room, and this is the same joke he actually played on other nurses, by the way. And he could barely talk, and he said, "Nurse," he says, "are my testicles black?" And the nurse was like, a little startled, and she went over and she washed her hands in the sink. She's putting the gloves on. She's about to lift up the sheet to look under to investigate. And Mom said, hold it, wait. And Dad said, "I said, are my test results back?" You get it?
I do.
That was a classic.
I love it.
That was a classic George Bush moment. To try to bring
cute.
levity at a time when he was down and almost out was just typical of my father.
Says so much about him, and we're so grateful that you shared that story. Neil, what a pleasure and honor to talk to you. And of course, all of our hearts are with you.
Can I say one thing, Frederica,
Yes.
before you go? And that is that in the spirit of giving to others, this whole notion that everyone can be a point of light, I want to thank CNN for hosting the CNN Heroes, which I understand is going to be broadcast on Sunday. I don't know, 8 o'clock I thought my time, but I hope everybody tunes in and learns lessons from ordinary citizens who do extraordinary things to help others. We need to take control of our democracy, and everyone has the ability to do something. And by the way, in a divided time in our nation, service unites us in the way that very few other things do. So thank you, CNN, for hosting these amazing awards and recognition. I'm really proud, and I know Dad was very proud that you do that.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Well, CNN, we're very proud of that, and really all the efforts that so many put out to give to others, but exemplified by your father's service for so many decades. Really inspirational. Thank you so much, Neil.
All right, all the best.